What's up, guys? This is Chris from Swole Fitness. Today I'm going to go over my fat sources with you. How I get the fats that fuel me throughout my day from my food. As a lot of you know, I consume a ketogenic diet. So about 70% of my calories come from fat sources. Only about 20% of my calories come from proteins, and about 10% or under come from my carbohydrates. A lot of you might be like, whoa, that's fucking crazy. How do you do that? Well, my recommendation is to check out The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance by Volek and Finney. Check out some of my other blogs from warriorsoulfitness.com. But the main point is that fats are my main source of fuel, so it's extremely important that I source my fats correctly to preserve my health, keep my energy high, keep my brain working at full capacity, and to be able to do awesome videos like this for all of you. First things first, there's three different types of fats. There's saturated fats, there's polyunsaturated fats, and then there's monounsaturated fats. I'm not going to go too heavy into the science behind those, but I do want to go into one specific thing related to all of those. That is essential fatty acids. There's two types of essential fatty acids. There's omega-3s and omega-6s. Omega-3s are great for the body, they're great for your brain, they help reduce total body chronic inflammation. Omega-6s are also extremely important. They help with renal function, they help with skin health, but omega-6s also raise total body chronic inflammation. And so in everything we eat that contains fat, there's a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. The higher the ratio of omega-6, the more total body chronic inflammation goes up. Now, why is that bad? Well, first things first, for your health, if you're prone to autoimmune disease like I am with ulcerative colitis, then whether or not you get a flare-up is based on your level of total body chronic inflammation. If inflammation goes up, I get a flare-up, I get all types of intestinal discomfort, and all types of horrible things come with that. Increased levels of total body chronic inflammation can also lead to things like cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. And so it's really important that we keep our levels of total body chronic inflammation in check. And while you need omega-6s, you need to keep that ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 as close to 1-to-1 as possible. In the standard American diet, the ratio is more like 40-to-1 in favor of omega-6. And so that's one of the potential reasons why you see so much heart disease, cancer, and diabetes out in our society right now. As far as my sources of fat and my specific sources of fat, and I'll go through why I choose each source of fat based off of that omega-3, omega-6 ratio. But the first category is saturated fats. Saturated fats have typically been vilified, and they've been associated with lots of heart disease and cancer and diabetes. But recent scientific research has actually demonstrated that a lot of those fears are unfounded. And for all of you, I put a link to my blog on saturated fat below. I contain over 30 peer-reviewed scientific citations in that article, and it actually goes through my reasons as to why you should eat saturated fat and why it's important for your health and fitness. Please check out the blog below, because I just don't want to sit here and spew BS from my mouth and not have you be able to check up on my sources. My main source of saturated fat is actually coconut oil. It's the only plant-based source of saturated fat. Most saturated fat comes from animal sources. And I choose Nutiva. Nutiva is actually a great source of coconut oil. It's cold pressed virgin coconut oil, and it's important that it was cold pressed during the process, because the heating element to it can actually cause the fats to become rancid on the shelf, and eating rancid fat can actually cause a lot of free radical damage to your cells. Another source of fat that I take in is grass-fed butter, and I rely on grass-fed butter and coconut oil a lot because I don't like to eat a lot of meat. I only eat 4 to 6 ounces of meat per day, whereas most people eat 8 ounces per meal. I put both of these into my coffee during the day. I cook with both of these. At night, before I go to bed, if I'm hungry or I feel like I need more calories, I'll actually have a tablespoon or two of coconut oil. Other sources of saturated fat that I do eat, I'll usually eat between 4 and 6 ounces of grass-fed beef per day. And the reason why it's important that we go with grass-fed beef and grass-fed butter is because of what I mentioned about the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. Corn-fed cows have a higher ratio of omega-6, which can lead to tons of inflammation. Grass-fed cows actually have a better ratio of omega-3s in them. And so that's why it's important to choose grass-fed. A lot of you at home are like, oh, whatever, grass-fed, that doesn't matter. Yes, it does. It matters. It's extremely important for keeping that ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 in check and keeping total body chronic inflammation in check. So grass-fed butter. Another important aspect of grass-fed butter is butyrate, and butyrate is actually a fatty acid that helps heal the lining of the gut when you ingest it, and that's important for keeping my gut health. While for me, who has ulcerative colitis, another thing that I consume quite frequently that also has butyrate and saturated fat in it is bone broth. I'll take a bunch of beef marrow bones. I'll put them into a crock pot. I actually have some cooking back there over there by the refrigerator, and I will cook them for 24 to 48 hours. Puts all the fat out into the broth, and that actually is great for gut health and also helps the joints because it has collagen in it. Other sources of fat. So you have your plant-based sources of fat, and these are typically known as quote-unquote healthy fats. They include vegetable oils, they include nuts, they include peanuts and nut butters, and avocados. I avoid vegetable oils and I avoid peanuts like the plague because they have a really high ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. Those of you consuming a lot of peanut butter or a lot of vegetable oils might notice that you have achy joints. That's a product of inflammation. I do consume a lot of avocados. Avocados are great for you. I consume a lot of chia seeds. Chia seeds are a great source of omega-3. I actually soak them overnight to create like a gel. I consume a lot of flax to get omega-3s. And I'll usually put flax, grind it up in my coffee grinder and put it into a shake. So those are really, really great sources of, or vegetable sources of fat. I would stay away from things like safflower oil, sunflower oil, or peanuts. I would avoid peanuts like the plague. If you're gonna go with nut butters, I would go with coconut butter, which is actually really tasty, or possibly cashew butter or almond butter. I would stay away from peanut butter. Finally, you have fatty fish, and I don't eat a whole lot of fish. I do eat smoked salmon from time to time, but I get most of my fish oil from a supplement. And the thing about fish is, or fish oil, is you really want to make sure that you consume fish oil in its triglyceride form and that there was no heating in the process. Otherwise, the fats can become rancid and cause a lot of free radical damage. So I hope this helps. I hope this wasn't too confusing for you. If it was, let me know at gettingshredded@gmail.com. I'm always looking to up my game and taking on good criticisms. If you've got questions for me, send them there. And check out the blogs that I'm posting below as far as saturated fat goes. Hope you guys train hard and eat well. Peace.